Zeus because they were against tyrants, and they said, no, Zeus is a tyrant. He represents the tyrants. And we are the liberators. People like Simon Bolivar, these romantic revolutionaries who wanted to liberate man from colonialism and stuff. So the Promethean myth became a thing. And in Britain, the romantic poets like Shelley and Keats, they were all Prometheans. I'm a Promethean too, but I don't think that Zeus is... I think as an archetype, he still has a function to play and is still to be honoured. And, you know, maybe the way that the Bolshevik revolutionaries killed off all the Tsarists, I think, was wrong. I mean, they should have kept a few and given them a constitutional role, in my opinion, like we've done in Britain. What's wrong with constitutional monarchy? It gives Zeus a job, but actually the Prometheans can run the show.
I understand better the UK with your explanation. Thank you.
Well, there we are. I've lived there many years and followed its works. Okay, so that's Zeus. Yes, I think this conflict between generations is partly what this card is about to me, because each generation wants to overthrow the last. And there was a very important Swiss intellectual called James Fasey, who wrote a book saying against Marx. He said, no, the worst conflicts in history are not caused by class struggle, they're caused by intergenerational struggle. And really, I think he was onto something. He was the guy behind the modern Swiss Federation. He did a revolution in 1848, but it was very Swiss. They didn't kill anyone, they just marched into parliament, got the oldies out of the building, and brought in a new federal republic, which is modern Switzerland. And I think James Fasey, who was a good intellectual theorist of intergenerational power transformations, I think we've got to find a way where the old guard can give power to the new. For instance, in America, we had the two oldies, Trump and Biden. It's nice we've now got a youngster, relatively speaking, Kamala Harris, to step forward finally, because Biden said, okay, you know, I'm getting a bit old for this game. But it took a lot of persuasion, didn't it? And that's kind of Zeus finally getting the message that he's got to let Athena come and do her thing. And so tyrants are always difficult to pin, you know, to make sure they do the right thing. And constitutionalism is one of the best ways. So yeah, that was the point of the American Constitution, was to create and stop tyrants. I hope it does its job. And I'm a believer in written constitutions like here in France and America. I think we should have one for Britain, because we came very close to seeing a tyrant Tory dictatorship steal power forever, and we only just got rid of them, and we can't let that happen again. I think as a Liberal Democrat we need a written constitution. Okay, I'm going to do my last card here, which is jolly exciting. This is Tane, who is the Six of Water. Have a look and pass it on. He is a very interesting Polynesian god from the Pacific. And he's from the Maori culture, in fact, but with links to all the other Polynesian people. I discovered him through my researches in primal religions and looking up Maori religions and things. And he is the god of forests and of birds. He's the son of the Sky Father and the Earth Mother. And his parents used to love each other so much that they were constantly in a tight embrace. They were making love all the time. And when the children were there, they were always in darkness. There was no room for them. And what this hero, Tane, did is he got frustrated at this. There was no room in the bed. And he pushed up with his feet and pushed down with his feet, and he separated the sky and the earth. Like his father sky and mother earth. And that's where we live. We live in space. It's a sweet, you know, it's an interesting story. they loved each other so much, and that's why it's always raining, because the Sky Father's sending his love down to the Earth Mother. But Tane, the hero, created the trees because they exist in the space between. And he created us humans and other animals because we can now exist as a world, right? It's interesting slant on the whole thing. And in Maori culture, wood carving is very important. So the canoes they make are all beautifully crafted. Those are Tane devotees that do that. These great ocean-going carving to make wood, waka they're called, canoes. And when the Maori craftsman goes about making a waka, he first invokes the help and assistance of Tane, who's the god of all craftsmen and carpenters, especially those that work with wood. It's also the main building material for Maori houses. And so when you make a marae, as they're called, like a salle de fête here in France, a sort of meeting place for the village, the marae, it's made of wood, and it's done by invoking Tane first. He made the first man called Tiki. So what's interesting is when I was writing this card, a few years ago, I was researching also for a novel I've written, and in the novel I interwove a passage involving, it's a long story, but it was a novel. That particular chapter was set in Thailand, where the heroine goes on a retreat to a Buddhist monastery, and she's researching stuff. And then a New Zealand backpacker appears, a Maori guy, who teaches her about Tane. And what I discovered, I was researching this all at the same time, synchronistically, if you are initiated into the Tane Lodge, if you study that in contemporary Maori land, and forgive me, I'm not giving away secrets here, I greatly honour that tradition, you're taught about the 3 baskets of knowledge that Tane brought down from the heavens to us humans. And these 3 baskets are incorporated into the 3 strata of learning that were taught in the priestly schools in the various parts of Polynesia, including New Zealand. And so in other words, it's like we call it the Druid curriculum of the Maori culture, these 3 baskets of knowledge. And what's really interesting, and I explain what they are in the text that goes with this card, what I think is really interesting is that in the Buddhist tradition, the Tripitaka are the 3 baskets of knowledge of the teaching of the Dharma. After Buddha died and his disciples got together and said, what was he going on about? They divided it into 3 baskets. The discipline, the rules, the metaphysics, and then texts were remembered from what he'd said and written down finally in Pali. And so these 3 baskets appear in Buddhism. Now, what I speculate in the novel and in this, because we know that Buddhists had kind of explored Malaysia, they got to Borneo, they got to Indonesia, parts of Indonesia. They built great temples in all those islands. Is it possible 1 or 2 of them had got in touch and got as far as New Zealand and spread this idea of a God who brings wisdom in 3 baskets? There's nothing written about this, but I speculate as a mere philosopher of history that it's possible, because I can see in Tane elements of that and the preciousness of that oral tradition. Because history as we know it is just written history, but there's loads of lost oral history that we've lost, because obviously they didn't write it down. We've lost the ancient wisdom of so many peoples. And I'm sure that some Buddhist missionaries met some ancient Polynesians and discussed the 3 baskets. But anyway, that's just my speculation. Yes. There's also another interesting thing that, according to the metaphysics of all this, Tane, who's also sometimes called Kane in the Hawaiian culture, it's the same god, he creates light, and then Lono brings sound into the universe, who's light, and then Ku brings substance. So there's a sort of metaphysics hiding under these Polynesian teachings, which I researched and I tried to find out. And there are people that are beginning to write about all this. I think it's very similar to Druid stuff, from what I've learned from the Celtic world. But I also think it's very similar to modern science. There's stuff here in Tane is, he's also a scientist. He works with wood. He works with trees. And so I think there's lots to learn here. And it's, in a sense, Tane brings all the wisdom of the gods down to earth, to our needs, to our human function, to grow stuff, to look after our forests, to make sure they're not burned through forest fires. As there are raging in California, there's a huge fire going on at the moment, and in Spain as well. That's why, going back to eco-philosophy, it's important that we remember the whole Earth system that we're part of, and that our philosophy is not detached from it, which is one of the reasons I'm against the kind of Christian idea that, well, the world's gone, we're all doomed, it's all right, a few of us will be saved with Christ and that's it, let the world burn. This is such an evil idea, actually. I'm in favour of the planet being sustained for the next millions of years. I want my descendants to flourish here and enjoy a beautiful home just as I've been able to. And who knows, I might even come back from time to time, check on how it's going. Anyway, that was my one. So I think I see these three deities as all embarked on the same project from slightly different angles. And if we work with those energies, I think we can turn the ship around and get it in a peaceful and loving direction. Yes. Margaret Mead, talking about anthropology, she did studies in Samoa, and also others worked on the question of taboo. These are important Polynesian concepts that have influenced anthropological thinking. Did you look at any Polynesian stuff in your course?
We did look at Margaret Mead a lot, of course, but we didn't go in depth into specific Polynesian cases.
Had you heard of Tane before?
No.
Oh well, you have now. You can go back and tell your faculty.
Yes.
The gods live on. Yes. Okay, any final questions before we finish? Or points, or... Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, go for it.
I'm surprised it's 6 of water, because hearing your presentation, I see this god as making a synthesis with the passion, the fire, and the water, the link between the sky and the earth. And as we were wondering how to help Hephaestus, it looks like
Yeah, Tane is the answer to Hephaestus. Yeah. I think I designate him a water god because Polynesian culture is a water-born civilization. Tane is the inspirer of, the Pacific is vast. They're doing surfing now in the Olympic Games down in Tahiti and things. It's just vast. And that's all Tane's domain. So I think it was in homage to that. And obviously there are problems in the Pacific with the dumping of toxic wastes. There's radioactive residue spewing out of the Fukushima nuclear power catastrophe. The reason I want to stop the potential of nuclear war and clean up the militarism on the planet is so we can divert the resources to purifying our natural environment, so we can stop the Pacific Ocean becoming a graveyard for fish and things. and in other seas and oceans. So, yeah, why is Tane in the suit of water, I ask? Polynesia as a region of the world entirely surrounded by water. When you look at planet Earth from space and look down at the Pacific side of the planet, you will see mostly sea. We should call this planet sea. So that's kind of, I explain. But in a sense, all the gods are all. This is the paradox. It's a hologram. Each god reflects the whole of things as well. And each is a kind of synthesis. That's why they're gods. Discuss. I'd love to have a full copy of Antoine Coeur de Gebelin's Comparison of Modern and also do a new edition of it. Because it's a bit out of date. It was published in like 1789, just around the time the revolution was happening. We need to update it.
And make a new revolution.
Well, yeah, we need a new revolution, yeah, but a non-violent one I would go for, of the mind and heart of humanity, so that we want wisdom and won't accept any second best. It's our birthright. That's the point of the Philosophy Club, anyway. Ok, merci bien pour tout le monde et bonnes vacances et bonne semaine. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.